Salute Knicks Nation. Let's talk about this game as the New York Knicks go down 1-3 in the series to the Indiana Pacers and lose game 4, 121 to 130. And the New York Knicks have themselves to blame in this one. There was a lot of missed opportunities. The Pacers showed up as I knew they would, and it was a must-win game for both teams. Indiana had a lot of players come to play, step up. Benedict Mathurin, I think, was a big player for them. Tyrese Halliburton, obviously Siakam, and the Knicks role players just did not step up. Mikal Bridges, awful game, couldn't buy a three late. Josh Hart as well, one of his worst games at the worst time when the Knicks needed these guys the most. And we're on to game 5 at MSG. The Knicks got their split, but they're going to have to be on the right end of history to win this series now and win 3 in a row as they face their first elimination game of the season. Game 5 back at MSG on Wednesday. So much to talk about, guys. Salute to Elliot, Lily Phillips in the house, Chris, what's good, M. Gene, and the many diehards coming through. Elliot says it ain't over yet. It's going to take a heroic effort, and I certainly don't think the series is over yet. You take it game at a time. That's the best way the Knicks have to approach this situation. We rewind back to the beginning. You know, Aaron Neesmith, there was a big storyline. Was he going to be able to give them something tonight? And he apparently recovered faster than expected, and he was definitely a big factor tonight. You know, obviously playing defense, fouling a lot, but playing tougher defense on Brunson. The Knicks did not get a good whistle tonight. It's not the reason they lost. Once again, credit to the Pacers. They were always going to bounce back in game 4, but I think the Knicks showed a lot of grit tonight, man. I'm incredibly annoyed, frustrated, heartbroken, but also proud of the team because a lot of players did come to play. A lot of players didn't, unfortunately. Thibodeau as well. We're going to talk about the lineup decisions. Thibodeau did not have a great game tonight. He went with the double big lineup to start the game again, and it backfired as the Pacers. I think the first quarter was the difference in this one. You can't give up 43 points in the first quarter. The Knicks scored 35 of their own. As we look at a lot of the plus minus, Mitch was minus 20, but he didn't play many minutes down the stretch when the Knicks made a big run. So Hart's plus minus, -1, is very misleading in this one. We bring up the stats. I thought Indiana got some critical offensive rebounds. You know, this is probably their best, most timely rebounding game. Despite the Knicks winning the rebound tally, they just found those timely rebounds as well. And a lot of folly from the Knicks. Turnovers, 17 to 11. That's game right there with 6 more possessions. Plenty of swing plays as always. Deuce McBride had a wide open 3 down 10. I think with about 4 or 5 minutes remaining. That would have cut it to 7. Give the Knicks more momentum. I think that was a big swing play. Deuce missing that big wide open 3. A lot of plays where the Indiana Pacers were on the correct end of the call. TJ McConnell stepped out of bounds. We have the graphic. OG Anunoby was clocked in the head, the back of the head as well. That could have given the Knicks some more momentum. But we had our one good game where we got the result on the road, but you combine both games and we didn't really deliver 4 quarters out of the 2 games. And defensively, guys, this team has just got so many issues from the pick and roll coverage. I hope they don't talk about communication was off tonight. We're probably going to hear the same things. One of the most egregious calls of these playoffs that I've seen is, you know, OG Anunoby grabs the rebound, and I just don't know what Pascal Siakam was allowed to do there. Clear and obvious foul. But yeah, Thibodeau is going to be the main topic of everyone right now. The Knicks losing game 4. Only 13 teams now in NBA history have ever come back from a 3-1 deficit. And we really put game 1 at the very top I mean, I think these last two road games, they are what they are. It's a very tough environment to win. We stole the game we needed on the road. If we had just taken care of business at MSG in game one, the series would be 2-2. The series would be 2-2, best of three, Knicks with home court, everything in our favor. But you lose game one, Indiana, drop a game as well. But also game two. Game two needs to be talked about a lot as well, because the Knicks could have adjusted after game one, but they didn't. And that's on Thibodeau, in my opinion. Jimmy, what's up? Kaiser Soze, salute. Jose's G, insight. Metaphysical says they can't lock in. It's been our issue all season, and it's something we're going to have to really look at heavily in the off season. The cat minutes, everything is going to be under review, but we still have one more to play at the very least. I know our guys are going to come out there and try to extend the series. Hopefully they do, because you just never know. I mean, the Knicks have shown they can win on the road. The Knicks are 6-2 on the road now. You make Indiana nervous. Game 7 will be sitting there waiting. If the Knicks can win game 5, they bring it back to Indiana, and their butt cheeks pucker up and things tighten up. Who knows? But the Knicks had a chance tonight. All these games are close, man. Under double digits with 5 minutes to play. Just the Knicks killed themselves tonight with too many boneheaded decisions from the coach, too many boneheaded decisions from Josh Hart with the turnovers early. 5 turnovers from Josh Hart. He only gives you 12 points. He gives you 5 turnovers. That's a killer. Brunson, I thought needed to be a little bit more aggressive. That Brunson was quite passive, and I know a lot of people want to see JB move the rock a lot more. But look, when Bridges is bricking, you're trying to win a game on the road. You need the ball in the Cap's hand. He should have continued to force the fouls, get to the line, continue to clock up the points. Cat, frustrating night, man. All the Cat flaws come home to roost in one game. He just undoes all the great productivity. And there's a lot of great productivity. You look at the numbers, but he undoes all of that with this silly hook foul, silly grabbing dudes' wrists. And I get it, there's frustration, but you can't hamstring your team like that, man, on the road. So yeah, a lot of blame to go around. Tibbs at the top, but you got to blame some of the leaders, guys. You got to blame some of the leaders on this court, right? This is nut cracking time, and no bigger game in Josh Hart's career, no bigger game in Cat's career, Bridges' career. They needed to step up as leaders on the floor, and they failed, the rest of the guys, in my opinion. OG put in 22 points. He was a monster tonight, despite missing a lot of threes. Mitchell Robinson, slow start. I think the Pacers' game plan worked, to try to run 43-35 first quarter. That's the ball game right there. 7 points. The margin was 9. I thought we made a really good run in the second quarter, but then we gave it away in the final 2 minutes of the second quarter as well. Poor game management in terms of trying to manage the flow. And again, those were the turnovers really killed us tonight, fam. But if anything, I'm still confident we can win a game on the road, and hopefully we get one more chance. What do you guys say right now? What's the feeling? I know these guys won't let go of the rope. They'll try to extend the series, win game 5. Who knows what can happen? But we got the best of the Pacers tonight, and I knew that we would. Halliburton, got too much daylight. Halliburton is a guy that's obviously received a lot of criticism. We know he can play in big moments. His game is funky. That's why a lot of people, don't tend to gravitate towards Halliburton. I do believe he does carry on a lot of the crossovers, a lot of the coming around the corner, around the screen. One of the reasons he's able to get downhill so quickly is he's got long, skinny legs, and he's got long strides. And when he's able to just palm the basketball for half a second as he's coming around the pick, it does allow him to get downhill. really quickly. Um, but he had a historic night. No turnovers, triple double, stopping the stat sheet, and the Knicks just weren't good enough, slowing these guys down. Neesmith didn't really hurt us tonight. Nemhard didn't even hurt us. Nemhard hasn't really hurt the Knicks. It was Siakam again. It was Siakam. It was Benedict Mathurin who had one of his biggest plays, biggest games, right? TJ McConnell, again, he's been a Knick killer. Here is the other egregious call. Loves to run baseline. TJ McConnell, the referee conveniently, his head is, I don't know why his head's turned facing out of bounds. As you see, TJ McConnell's, but basically his entire foot is out of bounds in this one. Referees killed us, but they weren't the reason we lost. Above the rim says, can the refs swallow their whistles and give some respect to the last 4 teams remaining? You got to earn every single thing, man, on the road, and turnovers. You got to take care of the basketball as well. Atmosphere says Spike needed to stay out of the arena. We had Clyde, we had Pat, we had Patrick in the building, we had Timothy Chalamet, and we had obviously Ben Stiller. In the arena tonight, man. One of the biggest games in franchise recent memory. A lot of mixed emotions right now, guys. They showed their fight, but it's just we're hamstrung. We're literally coming from a handicap right now with Tibbs, with some of these lineups, and I guess he just waited too long. If we do end up going home early, guys, the story will be that we just waited too long to make adjustments. Tibbs could have figured a lot of these things out in the reg season. Playing cat with another big. He played Precious a little bit tonight, but didn't allow him to play anymore. We got good minutes from Shamet at times. DeLon Wright held his own as well. We should have been seeing these guys earlier, man, from the Detroit series. Cam Payne should have been yanked from the rotation after a couple of poor games in Detroit. But yeah, look, man, they showed grit. They just showed a lot of folly tonight from the coach down. But I really think the slow start hurt us again. And so what is he going to do for Game 5? We'll talk about that later tonight. We'll continue to shout you guys out. Do us a favor, smash that like button. Get this stream going out here in Knicks Nation. And we're going to talk about all these issues tonight. Therapy session. I'm not letting go of the rope. You got to make the Pacers earn this one. Bring it back to Indiana. But yeah, I feel like the end of the first, the end of the second, the end of the third, and the fourth quarter, we're still right there. As crazy as it was, man, 6 points. Deuce with a wide open J. I think it was 7 when Deuce had a wide open look. All of those issues and turnovers, we still had a chance. So I still believe these two teams are very evenly matched, and it comes down to just who blinks first, man. Angel says it's hard to see pro ball players not playing pro ball, sloppy, undisciplined. I think the pressure got to a lot of these guys, man. This is the first time I've seen Hart look shook. He didn't want to keep the ball for too long, and then he was throwing contested lobs to Mitchie early. He was trying to throw bounce pass early in the game, thread the needle, especially DeLon Wright as well. He had a couple of turnovers, so I know he hasn't been playing a lot, but 17 turnovers, man. You can't win on the road with 17 turnovers. That's just a killer right there. And look, we did the heavy lifting early, 64-69. That's right where you want to be. Despite a poor close to the second, scores were tied. It was like 54-54 in the second half. And I was kind of pushing. I was like, let's go on. Let's get a lead. Let's capitalize because they're going to make that run. But the Knicks just ran out of gas late in the second as well. Deuce McBride was not great tonight, man. He was getting cooked by TJ McConnell again. Great game last game, but that's what you get with Deuce, man. It's just up and down. What's it going to take to go under a screen for TJ McConnell, man? You know, he's got to do a lot of soul searching because he can't keep getting cooked by TJ McConnell. Corey salute, Freeway salute. Yeah, OKC, Freeway look like they're going to be the heavy favorites, but I got to respect the Pacers. I want to see a long series. I don't want OKC to run away with it if the Knicks can't get through. But we'll have a lot of time to look at bigger picture stuff. I'm not writing the Knicks off just yet. But we got this far. It's been a hell of a ride so far, and I think they're going to give it a fair shake back in Game 5 at home. Let's extend the series because, yeah, Game 6 becomes a must-win for Indiana if we can win Game 5. And, momentum can shift. An injury, things can happen. If we can take one positive from both games in Indiana is that we haven't played our best ball and we've been in both games, right? And if you're a pro baller like the Knicks and that doesn't give you confidence, then you'll never get confidence, We can win in Indiana. We can. Obviously, we have to see what the story looks like in Game 5. Pacers will love to try to close it out early because the NBA Finals, man, it starts on, I think, June 5, I think next Wednesday, right? So Indiana, knowing that OKC could end things early with the next game in Oklahoma tomorrow, Pacers will try to end this thing early as well. But the Knicks got to show grit. MSG going to turn up. Let's make it loud. But defensively, we've got a lot to clean up, man. I think when the Pacers go small, I think a lot of rebounds kind of fell in their lap tonight. They got fortunate early as the Knicks couldn't capitalize with the size, and they played their game. Indiana ran, they got out in transition. The Knicks was sloppy, man. Hart getting beat backdoor. It was just an eyesore tonight, man. The captain went 9 of 19, 11 of 12, kept us in it with the free throws, but he was a minus 16. Lot of off-season conversations to be had. Brunson and Cat together. I already see the national media starting to talk more about it. Can those two coexist? Leon Rose will have to make a lot of decisions. Because ultimately, to get to the top of the mountain, you need more two-way players. And if we continue to struggle defensively, you've got to stagger Cat and you've got to stagger Brunson. And I'm okay with that. Whatever helps this team win, man. No egos aside. Cat is a force when he's featured. When Cat's featured at the top of the key, Miles Turner on him, it's barbecue chicken. The Knicks aren't capitalizing on their favorable mismatches. That comes down to coaching. That comes down to Tibbs. Like you guys say in the chat. Primo, looking at Mike Malone as a switch up. I do think we need a coach that's a bit more harder on these guys, no favors. Get into it with Hart. If he's not performing, you need to bench him. If Cat and Brunson together aren't working, you need to stagger those lineups, fam. Get some more shooting out there. But man, does this team need some more shooting. I think Landry Shamet is a guy that's ideally, a right kind of guy for shooting, but we need to upgrade that spot. Hopefully in the off season, we need a 6-man that's going to come in, 6, 7, 8 man that's going to come in and knock down those threes consistently. Guy that can put the ball on the floor and make some plays. The Pacers have a lot of guards. But look, the future is bright for our organization. The future is bright because next season is going to be a season of a lot of opportunity, fam. Big off season ahead. Maybe some big stars getting traded, but the Pacers will run into some financial constraints. Boston got the injury to Tatum. They've got a lot of financial restraints as well. The Knicks have to capitalize on this window. We have to learn from this playoff run. It has been a hell of a run so far. Hopefully we can continue this ride. But if we do go home in this round, the Knicks will have a lot of data. A lot of data on Tibbs' performances to analyze, who stepped up in big moments, who's let us down, a lot of things. But I do believe the coach should be switched up. It's bittersweet because I do like and appreciate some things Tibbs has brought to the table. I mean, look at where we are. You know, the consistency, getting us to a top 3 seed 2 years in a row. Got us to the Eastern Conference Finals now for the first time in 25, the second time in Tibbs' career. But you still got to analyze his performances. You know, nobody's safe. You still got to look at what are the things that we could do better. Who else is out there, like you guys are saying? You know, like you guys are saying, who else is out there? Cat and Brunson. That's a critical decision that needs to be made in the summer as well. Both guys seem to thrive when the other guy is quiet. You know, they both haven't been able to play off of each other. Is that more coaching? Is that more, you know, other things as well? I think it's a mixture. I think it's a bit of both. I think Tibbs' offensive play calling is very, very limited. You know, his philosophy is, you know, continues to be, you know, the game will tell you what to do. You know, when he talks in these interviews with the press, the game will tell you what to do. Well, you need a clear plan, man. These players, they're not, you know, to their credit, they're great ball players, but they're not mathematicians. They're not rocket scientists. They're not architects. You know, you need to lay out a clear plan. They'll follow. You need to lay out a great plan. It's a lot of freestyling. You know, it's a lot of freewheeling right now. Man, Bridges knocked down 4 or 5 from downtown. A lot of those were late. That's surprising to me. It felt like he clanked 1,000 open shots tonight, fading away at the basket. Most people frustrated with Bridges tonight. 6 of 15, minus 13. Played soft. Hit some shots late, but he played soft tonight. Did Mikal Bridges. 6 of 15, man. That's a big question as well. The Knicks have got a lot of questions to look at in the summer, fam. Is Mikal Bridges a quintessential shooting guard? You know, appreciate you guys all for joining. Be respectful. I respect everybody's opinion, right or wrong. Speak your piece. This is your time. But also, I don't blame anyone for feeling how they do because, you know, emotions get the best of us at times. This is a game, like I said, the biggest game in 25 years. Every game becomes bigger than the last game. I think there's been some failures from top to bottom. Tibbs could have made some decisions earlier in the postseason. You look at a guy like a DeLon Wright right now. Had a bit of back and forth with DeLon Wright. He's active on social media. He's looking at all of Knicks Nation's opinions. When we picked up DeLon Wright, I said it was a solid pickup. You know, he could do some things. He could help us out. Tibbs didn't really give him a chance until too little too late. DeLon Wright hit a big 3, plus 11 tonight. Heroic effort in 9 minutes, man. Talk about dusted off, cold, off the bench, comes in, plays like a true professional. 1 of 1 from downtown, plus 11. Active hands, got a block. Just, you know, doesn't jump off the page, but just plays the right way. You know, we could have done with that steady hand in game 1. Fam. These are the fine margins where you can't give the other good team a head start. And that's what Tibbs did in this squad. Throwing away game 1. It was diabolical right now. But yeah, these players have got to learn, and they will. You know, remember Deuce McBride 3 years ago in Miami? He was a player that didn't look like he belonged on the court. He came back. He got better. He went through the off season. Still having some struggles. You know, Miles McBride, not a perfect player, but he's had some big moments in the off season. In the postseason. But tonight wasn't one of them. Deuce got cooked defensively. I think he's given up some size. I think the Knicks do need to look at some wing size. Mikal Bridges, big question mark over him at the shooting guard. OG at the 4, Mikal at the 3. M. Jean says, I'll answer. Bridges in large part has been lame this season. Yeah, it's just been a mixed bag. You can't say it's been all bad, and you can't say it's been good. It's been definitely a real mixed bag. Chris, great comment. Question: whatever happened to the offense this team was running back in October, November? Um, yeah, I think we became a little bit more too reliant on JB. And my hunch tells me that early in the season the legs are fresh. October, November, fam. They're fresh off their holiday, fresh off training camp. So they're running. They're playing more free. But yeah, things definitely tighten up. I agree. Above the rim, we need a bona fide playmaker who can get his own shot. A lot of teams need that, fam. Theoretically, that's what Bridges should be. So you could say, is he a failure in his role? Is he underperforming for what we need? You look at guys like Nemhard and Neesmith; those guys are going to command 30 million, and that's what Bridges is looking to get, no less, in his next contract. But those guys are creating their shot; they're hitting shots with consistency, and they're defending at a better level as well. Salute buzzer beater. Eddie says Tibbs has no offense. Buzzer had a question before. Apologies if I missed. Let me. Buzzer asked CT who was guarding Siakam. Hart a lot, man. Hart on the switching. That's the thing. When you continue to switch, I think the Pacers have done a lot better job than Boston. I think arrogance allowed the Knicks to capitalize against Boston. And look, you show your flaws, the other team will pick apart your weakness. Rick Carlisle, he's a very methodical, very detail-oriented coach. He's been around for decades, won a championship, Hall of Fame coach. He can spot a mismatch when he sees it. Continues to lobby for campaign to get minutes. He continues to lobby for Precious to get minutes. He'll be talking about Matt Ryan soon. But yeah, Rick Carlisle. I mean, these two teams know each other, and I think Carlisle's learned a lot from last season's triumph against Tibbs. Tibbs hasn't learned much against Indiana from last season's, Eastern Conference semifinals. Lionel says, yeah, Tibbs kept Hart in for too long. He had at least 5 turnovers, 100%. That was a killer tonight. Bad on the coach. Bad look on the coach. Angel says, everything is a must-win now. I hope it's the pressure that we need. That's a good point. Backs to the wall. It just comes down to execution in the playoffs. I can't fault their effort. They fought like tooth and nail tonight, man. Every single game in this series, we've been in the game. We've dug ourselves a hole. I mean, every single game except game 1, we've dug ourselves a hole. I really think this series deserves to be 2-2, but unfortunately, we're living in a different reality where Indiana's hot shot making and the Knicks' poor defense let them back in. And ultimately, if Indiana get through, they'll have deserved it because we let them in game 1. They took advantage. Once a Nick says, I don't understand how you don't pressure Halliburton. It's just the pace, the fact that he can get downhill so quickly, and we're already trying to cross match. And as I think about it more right now, guys, as it hits home, I think when the Knicks got OG Anunoby and when they grabbed Mikal, I thought, great, we got a real switchable defense. But unfortunately, it still comes back to Brunson and Cat. The buck stops with them defensively. We know how good they can be offensively, but if you can't slow the other team down, you're in a track meet. You're stuck in a track meet right now. And I think Tibbs just got to stagger these lineups, play deuce with the starters with Cat. So we got one more switchable guy. Play DeLon Wright more minutes as well, so we can switch there. you're paying Mikal Bridges. You traded for him. You traded for OG Anunoby. At what point are you gonna fully adopt, the switchable defense? But with Brunson and Cat, you got to stagger their lineups because with two of those guys, Indiana can find the cross match too easily when they get downhill, and the Knicks just can't slow that down. Right? If you look at tonight, 121. I mean, hell, man, that would have burnt teams, back in the 90s. The Knicks have no problem scoring the rock. If anything, we're not capitalizing on Tyrese Halliburton enough. Mikal Bridges is that guy, and I think that's a win for Carlisle. He's always making sure that Tyrese is guarding Mikal, and Mikal's not manning up. He's not punishing Halliburton enough. He's fading away under the basket. For Christ's sake, Jazzman, you said it. One game killed us. Game one killed us, and now we need 3 straight. John says there's still 3 remaining. Yep, you got to get one at a time. You got to adjust first because we're not going to win 3 games in a row playing how we did tonight. But we can win 3 in a row if we make a major adjustment. I wonder if he takes Mitch back out of the starting lineup, or he leaves him in at Madison Square Garden and switches it up for Game 6. Because my opinion right now, and I've got to watch the film back, but the first quarter killed us, 43-35. The minutes that Mitch is out there, the Pacers' game plan worked. They were able to get the speed up, and they got too many fast break buckets tonight. Pull up the stats. Once again, the Knicks got cooked with fast break buckets, and it's embarrassing that the Knicks could only get 9 fast break points in a game to the Pacers 22. Thankfully, we got to the line and we were able to make up some of those points, getting them in the bonus. By the way, Indiana should be in the bonus a lot earlier because the physicality that they can deploy on Brunson is crazy. Compared to some of the other ways that the Knicks are getting called. OG Anunoby, Hart getting every single foul on them. OG getting smashed in the face as well. But Neesmith is, he's being as physical as he can until the refs call it. The trick is the defender, the coach will tell his defender, look, early on, figure out how they're going to call it. Be as aggressive as possible and get a whistle and just see how far you can push it. See how far the refs will give you. Great screen from Mitch there. Mitch is our only guy setting the best screens. Karl Anthony Towns just can't free Brunson up with a screen. That's a big issue as well. I think that's probably one of the reasons why Tibbs doesn't play Cat Brunson top of the key, pick and roll. Because, Cat's known to set an illegal screen as well, but also when he's trying to set a good screen, it's not as good as Mitchell Robinson. Brunson needs full separation to get the switch. Also, something I think we need more of, guys, is above the break 3-point shooting. The Pacers are great at it. They've got Tyrese, they've got Nembhard, Neesmith, Siakam, Turner. Everybody in their starting 5 can shoot above the break 3s. Mikal Bridges, not so much above the break. The Knicks have Brunson, Cat, OG, pretty much, and they fail to get enough gravity, top of the key above the break 3s. They're not even generating enough corner 3s, to be honest. I really got to look it up. But, one of the big reasons we get Mikal Bridges, he's a sniper from the corner from his career, and he's just been a letdown all season. It started in training camp with the funky jump shot. He fixed it a little bit. OG's 3-point shooting has been great, been as advertised. Hit a big shot tonight under a lot of pressure. I thought the Knicks had a lot of things go for them as well, a lot of tough shot making. But yeah, the commentary spells it out. As painful as it is, the Knicks have to work so hard to get a bucket. The other team can just roll the ball downhill and get a bucket. So I mentioned at the top of the show, guys, if our season's on the brink and we learn a lot about this squad, the biggest thing I've learned is that we need to really switch up the starting five. I think there's going to be a lot of adjustments have to be made, a lot of tough decisions. Now, to the credit, above all adversity, we've shown that we can get this far, which speaks to how special some of these players are, like Brunson, OG, Cat, how special they can be. We just got to mix it up with the right ingredients and get the right recipe of guys, whether it's stagger them or, make some major changes. You can get to the final four, final three. Looks like Minnesota might get eliminated before we do. We can force a game 6. We'll have survived longer than every other team except the NBA finalists. So we're right here, which is the most frustrating thing. We're right here, but guys didn't come to play tonight, especially Hart and Mikal. They killed us in the first quarter. Mikal Bridges with the fadeaways, man, fading away from a layup. I mean, OG's leaving it all out there. Brunson, Mitch, Cat, Deuce. Cat has his moments as well, but man, is Cat a bad defender for just an individual defender, 1v1, and poor decision making as well. I'm surprised Cat didn't foul out with the ticky-tack stuff. Cat's knees, yep, that's an issue as well. Quincy says Cat offensive fouled most drives. Let's not blame the refs. I mean, the game's happening at such a crazy speed. They're going to get some calls wrong. They're going to get some calls correct. But it's the egregious ones that really frustrate me, and especially their review process. I still think the Knicks were going to pull this one out, man. I was glued to my seat. I know a lot of you were as well. 3 minutes remaining. The Pacers just seemed to let us hang around. But also, Rick Carlisle tonight, he made a mistake. He challenged a call. He let the crowd and the adrenaline get to him, and he challenged a call that was crazy. He shouldn't have challenged that. I think in the second quarter, might have even been in the first quarter. Maybe he was so confident he was going to get the call and get the challenge back, but it was definitely a dicey call. And Brunson got the and one. So a lot of things going the Knicks' way. Shout out to the entire squad, the captain, Patrick Ewing, Clyde, traveling to Indiana with the diehard fans. It was all set. It was all set up for a must-win game. Either team is in the box seat to win the series now, and the Knicks just going to have to create history. They're going to have to create history, man. One game at a time. Let the Pacers get ahead of themselves, just like they did in Game 3. Let them think that the series is over. The Knicks going to get their get back in Game 5, and I think it's going to set up an insane Game 6 where I think the Knicks are going to have to make an adjustment, another adjustment. We need more DeLon Wright, more Deuce. I mean, we might get a better Hart, but tonight was a game where Tibbs needed to bench Hart, Hart was killing us with 5 turnovers, trying to play point guard, throwing the ball all over the court, out of bounds, in traffic. I really felt like Mikal Bridges was going to arrive in this game. He hasn't really had a big offensive night in this series, but tonight he looked scared. He looked scared offensively on the road early in the game. Now, he tried to get downhill late, but obviously the Pacers took their foot off the gas a little bit. I thought Karl Anthony Towns tonight offensively was incredible. 8 of 15. didn't settle for threes, got 1 of 2, got to the line a lot, got the drives going, 12 rebounds. OG was very solid offensively as well, outside of the downtown. He was aggressive. 3-4 minutes remaining, the Knicks were right there. I think that Deuce McBride missed open 3 was a killer, man. Deuce usually hits that. One, man. That would have brought it to 7, I think, with 4 minutes remaining. But instead, the Pacers just continued to get stops and get out on the break as well. We'll get some reactions from the locker room and our squad. But I think the New York Knicks will be fully focused on Game 5. They can't look past Game 5 because for the first time this season, they are on the brink of elimination. They were never on the brink of elimination against Detroit or Boston. They were from ahead. In this series now, we are 1-3 down, and the Indiana Pacers continue to out-execute us as well. A lot of questions need to be asked from Tibbs, I think, with the front office. It's bittersweet because Tibbs won us the series earlier. He made some adjustments, but again, his stubbornness just hasn't allowed him to be flexible enough early enough in this series. Deuce McBride has been the Knicks' best player plus minus in the playoffs. Starting Mitch again, I think, in a game where the Pacers were going to try to push the pace, was risky, and it killed us tonight. It didn't pay off. Metaphysical Logic says Brunson was so cold in the third and looked tired. Why didn't Tibbs play the bench more? I think he wants to go down with his guys first and foremost. The incredible loyalty Tibbs has to Josh Hart is not surprising. He showed the same loyalty to Alfred Payton, Alec Burks, Keith Bogans back in Chicago. So many times Tibbs will continue to just look past some of these flaws, hoping that things are going to turn around, but they don't. And look, ultimately, that could stay on Tibbs' resume if he never wins a chip. He could forever be that almost coach that just can't get over the hump. Right now he's getting out coached, but like I said, it's not all on Tibbs. There's a lot of flaws with this roster, and a lot of these guys let him down as well. But ultimately, the buck stops with him. He could have made some adjustments and got Josh Hart out of the ball game early. He was killing us offensively and defensively. Looking ahead to a possible Game 6, Jazzman says Game 6 would be epic. We just got to play with that mindset now that, like, we lose, we go home. We lose any game now, we go home. So it's going to take a lot of gas to win 3 games like that. But like I said, anything can happen. I think records were meant to be broken. I think we saw that in Game 1. Anything can happen, an injury. I thought the Knicks finally caught a break, but Aaron Nesmith recovered faster than expected and was able to be a big factor tonight defensively. I just think, there's so many failings defensively first, but offensively as well is so bad at times. Like, the Pacers aren't a great defensive team. Like, they shouldn't be slowing us down to the level. Like, we're just playing so slow. And just to see them build a wall, pick us up full court with three guards, pick you up full court is just disgusting. It's disgusting to watch. The Knicks had plenty of time to counter and do certain things to counter that. Like, Aaron Nesmith is not a stopper, but the fact that he's bigger than Brunson, he's able to be physical and get into him and slow him down. The Knicks just haven't been able to counter that. They don't have enough ball handling, shot making off the bounce. Hart is a killer in that regard. Mikal Bridges as well. Deuce McBride is a guy that's been needing to play. needing to play more minutes. That's one of Tibbs's worst decisions, in my opinion. With credit to Indiana's roster building, you see their versatility offensively. There's a reason the Knicks are always in the scramble, because all of their guys can shoot above the break. They have that pressure on you where if you go under any screen, they can shoot above the break threes. They can handle the ball a little bit as well. If you go over a screen, they can take you downhill. So in that regard, you could say maybe the Pacers roster has more versatility than us, and that is where we've learned that the Bridges thing. It might be an experiment. I might be calling it a Bridges experiment because it might not be. It might not be from next season. Hart needs to come off the bench next season. You look at the Pistons series. We should have handled Detroit earlier, but we're working with a disadvantage, I think, with some of the shortcomings of some of the players in the starting five. We got Cat to be a real floor spacing unit, but we've never had floor spacing all season, right? You have OG, McCall, Brunson, you have Hart out there. So we've kind of never adopted an identity in terms of, what are we? We're kind of a 90s, 80s kind of little throwback Tibbs team that he doesn't want to let go of. And we're kind of halfway modernized, local new aged offense with Cat at the five. But we're stuck in between right now. I think we are a team that's gritty. We definitely adopted some of that with Tibbs's defensively, grit and just the player's personality. But right now, man, our offense has just been subpar since December, and our defense has been poor most of the season in terms of against good 3-point shooting teams and obviously against fast-paced teams. I mean, we saw Utah Jazz blow us out on the road. We've seen Charlotte, Detroit. We've had some really bad losses throughout the season. A lot of great things we've seen, a lot of things to build on, because you don't get to be the final 3 teams remaining, final 4 teams, if you're not a good team. But we're working at a disadvantage, I think, with some of the restrictions on the coach, the players right now, fam. And look, once again, credit to Indiana. They're executing at a high level. I believe this series should be 2-2. They stole a game on the road. We stole a game. I mean, you could blame the Knicks for game 2 just as much as game 1, because now that we've stolen a game on the road, we blew game 1, but we also blew game 2. Maybe we were just psychologically still, coming to terms with what happened with game 1. But yeah, I'm frustrated with Cat's boneheaded decision making in this one, and Hart as well. Like they let all of their bad habits creep in tonight, and especially with the crowd going crazy, especially with Indiana hitting a lot of shots early. I mean, they were shooting 60%, for a large part of the game. As I bring up the stats, I mean, they shot 40% from downtown. We shot 42%. We put up 121 with 17 turnovers. I mean, microcosm of the two teams, 17 assists from the Knicks, 29 assists from Indiana. So you see the ball moving with them, but that's because they trust more of their guys to put the ball on the floor and make a shot. And I think it's a double-edged sword with the argument that Brunson is a ball stopper and he's not moving the ball enough. There are times when he needs to feed Cat. There are times when I think the offense can feature OG a little bit, go to McCall in a mismatch with Halliburton. But honestly, I understand with Brunson taking control of an offense at times, because some of these guys just, you can't trust them in a tough spot. They put the ball on the floor, they lose control. They comes off their foot, they turn it over, they throw a sloppy pass, they brick an open J, fading away. I think you do got to feature Cat a lot more, because obviously he's more dependable. OG and Bridges need to be more of those corner guys that I think attack closeouts. Maybe you set a screen for them to get downhill. They can get downhill with drop coverage. But if teams are fighting over the screens, they're not great at putting the ball on the floor and creating nothing. I think the Knicks should be featuring Karl Anthony Towns a lot more offensively, especially on the block against a Turner. But yeah, I hope we do make that major adjustment, for next season. Hopefully for the rest of this season, but I don't see it happening anytime soon. Is Tibbs going to be searching, like he says? Deuce McBride would be my candidate to get major minutes and start in place of Mitch for next game. What do you guys think about that? As OG bobbles the basketball, but yeah, he made a great read with that one. Found Delon Wright. Delon Wright needs to get loads of minutes too, in my opinion. He's solid. Rice, is Tibbs going to end up a Pacers assistant? I think we will keep Tibbs in the organization. And look, I don't want to get too far down that rabbit hole yet, because we've got so much time to talk about the off season. But I'll say this right now. I'll understand if Tibbs comes back. As much as I would make a change, I do understand if Tibbs comes back, because there's a lot of factors at play. If you're Leon Rose, right, as the president of basketball operations, here's the thing. You just extended Thibodeau last summer. You just extended the man. And so it's going to look bad on you if you have to pay him out. If you have to go to James Dolan, your boss, that's going to look bad. That's a bad move on you, extending a coach, and then one season later, you got to fire him with 4 years remaining, 4 or 5 years remaining on his contract still, and he gets you to the Eastern Conference Finals. So, I don't know, man. It could go either way, but if I'm a betting man, I think the odds would be that Tibbs comes back still, as much as I would change things up. Because once again, if the heat's on Leon Rose because he has to pay out a coach for 4 years after just extending the man, that's a bad move on your behalf. As bad as that is for Tibbs. But yeah, James Dolan's not going to be happy about that, and nor should he. Because if you're somebody's boss and they come to you and ask you to fire somebody, the first thing I'm going to say is, look, you extended him less than a year ago, and now you're asking me to fire him and pay out 4 years. I'm still just finished paying out Phil Jackson. We just finished paying out those other coaches as well. Jeff Hornacek, Derek Fisher, Kurt Rambis, all of these dudes as well. So that's a bad move on Leon. Did he extend Thibodeau too soon? Yes, I think he did. I think he should have waited 1 more year. Maybe half a year even. He should have waited. We got to the conference semifinals last year. There was no need to extend Thibodeau. He's 67 years old. He's not going anywhere. He was still under contract. I would have brought him back for another year and then make a call on that one. Elliot says, I think if the Knicks can force a 6, I like our chances. I think there'll be a great chance. I don't think we'd be favourites in a Game 6. But yeah, you definitely got to take care of business in Game 5. Hopefully you can find something in terms of consistency. Again, the Knicks are struggling to play a consistent 4 quarters. Game 6 against the Boston Celtics was amazing. It was euphoria. But we haven't seen that enough. But look, the Pacers are a better team. I feel like, especially without Tatum, the Pacers would have at least taken Boston 6 or 7, and very well could have beaten them. You know, um, but the one thing Boston have is obviously they have crazy offensive shot making with their guys, but they have a much more robust defense. Boston's defense isn't going to break down like the Knicks. The Knicks defense got more holes than a slice of Swiss cheese. And all Indiana have to do is just pass the basketball around a few times and find an opening. And on the rare few occasions they don't find an opening, they might get a rebound. So the Knicks are working at a real disadvantage. Indiana pushing the pace is also, playing in their hands as well. I think what we're talking about is Game 6. I'm not saying the Knicks have a great chance right now. Again, people love to take you out of context. If it's a Game 6, then you would say, I think the Knicks have a chance. But they've obviously got to force a Game 6 right now, and they're at long odds, I think, to force a Game 6. We'll see what happens. Shez V says we're going to need a Game 8. Man, these players aren't going to last. But look, Tibbs has made an adjustment. I'm happy that Wright's getting some minutes. It's just too little too late. I would have preferred to see Tibbs do this a lot earlier. I think that's what sort of helped the Knicks hang around. This would have been a blowout in the second quarter. And like I said, credit to the Knicks' grit, because they were in both of these games. And I felt like today was a danger of getting blown out. The Pacers generally come back Game 4 and they blow teams out. But the Knicks stayed with it. And they're a tough team to blow out. I think this series is very even. Once again, it should be 2-2 if the Knicks didn't have a historic collapse. But then you also look at the Pacers; they had a bad collapse as well. I think Game 2, before tonight's game, 6 points separated both teams in all three games. So it was very, very close series so far. But I just think the Pacers are a bit more robust in terms of their defense is holding up at a better level. Their offense is obviously functioning more consistently than the New York Knicks. Rice says Knicks will strip the roster for 36, 37-year-old Durant. I think they will try to get Durant, but what I'm hearing is there's a lot of other teams ahead of the Knicks, fam. So hopefully we dodge a bullet. I do think San Antonio, Houston Rockets, I think some of these teams with no state taxes, I think will be key. That can offer a contending team as well. You look, Giannis, out east. I think Giannis might want to stay in New York. Will stay in the East, sorry. He's spending New York in the off season. He loves the big market with a large Greek community, Greek population. It would take some major pieces, but yeah, I think Greek Freak would be a guy I would try to target the most. Not saying it's realistic, but if you're targeting somebody, you have to go for him ahead of Durant. Durant's that guy where it's like, okay, if it's possible, it's a decent price, you could do it. But for Greek Freak, I mean, he's in his prime, 30 years of age. You could contend for 5-6 years with Greek. It's tough. Jazzman says Indiana will take their foot off the gas at the Garden. Well, look, they've got 3 games to win the series. Obviously, they will know Game 6 is in their back pocket, just like we did. But remember, and if we learn something from Jaylen Brown of Boston, shout out to Jaylen Brown. His Game 5 heroics saved the Celtics season. We're going to have to channel that. And somebody is going to have to step up in Game 5 and make sure that we don't lose on our home floor. And if you go down in this series, but you force Indiana to play another game, another tough game with attrition on their legs, forcing another game 6. And then you just never know, man. Player could get hot. Could be some crazy shot making in a game 6. I would love a game 7 between these two teams. Casey Armstrong says, I'm a long-time Knicks fan. I think we should say congrats to the Pacers and their fans. I will. I will say congrats like I always do. I respect the opponent, but the series has got to be over first. The Knicks are a very gritty team. They're the first team in a long time with 3 20-point comebacks in a postseason since the play-by-play era. It's going to take a lot to close them out in 5, Game 6 is obviously Indiana's best chance, in my opinion, because they're going to have the crowd, and maybe the Knicks will be too tired. But I think they've got one more big game left. Try to extend the series, see how we go. See how we go with that. Jazzman says, please no Durant. He passed on us with Kyrie. He'll kill us. Yeah, look, I think the Knicks will be looking for a player of a younger age, ideally, to keep with this core, these guys. Neymar says, CT, I was at Central Park for the watch party. I had a gut feeling we were going to win this game. Shout out to you, man, all the loyal fans. It's been a crazy run. Hopefully the run continues to go. We've got, like I said, another big game left. Let's rally behind this squad. Hopefully we can extend this series right now. But Thibodeau and our squad, man, we'll have to join only 13 teams in NBA history to come back from a 3-1 deficit. And look, it's a game of fine margins in the playoffs, Both teams are very even. There was only one game separate the two in the regular season. I think Indiana's roster and their depth has proven to be something that's very important for them, very admirable. The Knicks have had some players on their bench all season. Thibodeau just hasn't played them. The Knicks are very top star heavy, and they are very special players. They've got us to this position to be in the Final Four of the NBA. Despite all of the flaws that we have, there's a very solid base to come back next season, hopefully dominate the East, and give it another crack. I think it's not going to be easy any year. Every year has a mind of its own. But I think the Knicks facing Detroit in the first round, a tough 6-game series in the first round, put a lot of mileage on our guys that Thibodeau didn't really need to. He should have played guys like DeLon Wright and these guys. But we got the job done. To most people's surprise, we defeated Boston in 6 games. A bit of luck, the good defense, the bounce of the ball, heroic comebacks, game 1 and 2 allowed us to advance. This series, we let go of the rope in game 1. But like I said, the silver lining on the season, as well as knowing that these guys are built to get far and compete for a chip, the silver lining is that we know how many special players we have. And we can do it. I think we can do it with some of these guys. Some of the guys may not need to be here. They'll be traded, or maybe their role will change. Such as Hart might go to the bench. Mikal Bridges might find another role. We might deploy him in a different way. But either way, something's got to change. But we have some data now. The Knicks will have data on this squad making a deep playoff run, and Leon Rose will have a lot of answers as to what this team needs, in terms of trades and some changes coming up. I think we need to play Deuce with the starting 5. I think with game 5. John Jacob says Cat has gained about 70 pounds since being a rookie. He lumbers. He does lumber. I think defensively, what kills him is he's just so slower foot. Look, you look at the way Mitchie can shuffle his feet, Huck Porty as well. It's just something that Cat's not blessed with, unfortunately. He's blessed with so many other things offensively. Um, I was listening to a podcast. Brian Windhorst said something that was quite accurate, which is you look at Cat's waist. He's got a very high waist, very high center of gravity. He's easily bumped, off his spot. He's able to lose his balance, when your waist is that high. Um, and he's got such a big feet as well, man. But look, he's not a defensive player. I think playing him at the power forward theoretically is the right decision. Um, you just lose some spacing with Mitchie out there. You lose some floor spacing when it comes to that. And so, do we need to get Deuce McBride in there? Maybe for Hart, for even Macau Bridges. Bridges above the break shooting has not been good this season. Mitchell Robinson got 0 fourth quarter minutes tonight. Josh Hart, speaking to reporters in the locker room, Hart says, our backs are against the wall. We just have to make sure we fight out of it. And also, let's bring up some quotes from Tibbs, as I see these for the first time, reacting live. Salute to the chat. Smash that like button. Tibbs was asked why he went with Landry Shamet after Josh Hart fouled out. He said, we wanted some shooting just to see if we could get some more threes up. Question over Deuce. He said, just a little more size. I mean, he's not wrong with the extra size. However, these guys, I mean, Deuce has earned his stripes. He deserves that opportunity. We see Tyrese Halliburton doing the Jalen Brunson celebration as well. He's full of theatrics, is Tyrese, man. I think it rubs off from his pops. You could see his pops is very hot-headed, very animated. But yeah, Tyrese Halliburton, great night from him. When you win, you can talk your smack, but don't let it come back to bite. He did the choke thing in game 1. The Knicks could have easily come back and won game 2. We won game 3. He did the choke sign last season only to get swept in the next round. Now he's carried his team to possibly the next level, NBA Finals. Let's see how they look against Oklahoma if they were to advance. But look, this is just some gamesmanship, man. This doesn't bother me too much, man. Brunson does clown the other team as well at times. And these guys are competitors. Doesn't bother me as much. Just win the game. You got to shut these guys up. Michael Drake says, salute. It's been too real. Never thought that the Pacers were better. Never thought it. It's very even, man. I mean, game 1, the Knicks just threw away a game that you should never lose. But again, credit to the Pacers because they hit those shots. You have to hit those shots. But the Knicks defense allowed them to get into a rhythm. I think this series might be over in 6. I don't think it's going to be over in 5. Another hard-fought series. You learn, and you just move on to the next. If the Knicks lose, the Knicks have built a great core, and I think we're going to be around for many, many years to come. Like, this is the start of something for me. Like I said, we ain't got a 40-year-old LeBron that we're relying on. We ain't got a 39-year-old Chris Paul or 37-year-old KD. We've got a 28-year-old, which will be 29 next season, Jalen Brunson, and a 29-year-old Karl Anthony Towns. Like, we won't be going anywhere. Hopefully we have some more battles and we can get the best. So yeah, let's wrap this thing up. Just hearing some more quotes from these guys. I'll bring this up, and we'll wrap up with the captain and Kat in the locker room at the podium. Sorry. Kat says, we've been a team that has kind of found a way to do the impossible when it always seemed impossible. We just keep fighting. It's going to be a testament to our whole playoff run. Now we have to be one of the biggest now we have to be in one of the biggest fights of our lives and of our season. Yeah, obviously they're going to knuckle down, and they're going to know that their back's against the wall. They have to win game 5, and then game 6 they'll have another chance to force a game 7. You've got to do that. Let's hope that we see a great game. Take it game at a time, because game 5 is the most important game, man. There is no game 6. There is no game 6 right now without winning game 5. So yeah, let's see how it all plays out. I think the Knicks got a lot of pride, fired up Madison Square Garden, and let's see how this all plays out. But yeah, very frustrating night. And this team knows they've got to do better collectively, as Kat also says on the podium. And we've just got to do better as a team, limit turnovers, hit some shots. Skip Bayless says the Knicks routinely play sorry defense. They play heroic offense, but give up so much on the offensive side. So yeah, credit to the Pacers. Got the lead. The Knicks choked, but Thibodeau pushing some of the wrong buttons right now. And let's see what they have in the next one, guys. Peace. Big up to the Knicks Nation and the squad. The Knicks in the Final Four. Biggest game of the season next up to avoid elimination on their home floor. And the Pacers take a commanding 3-1 lead. The Knicks will have to join only 13 teams to come back if they were to win the series, down 3-1. But yeah, game 1 still stings. The Knicks did what they needed to do, which is split on the road. They just unfortunately did not win a single game at Madison Square Garden, which is unforgivable. You lose game 1, okay, that's one thing. But how do you not rally to come back and win game 2? I think that's the reason the Knicks are in this position right now. We split on the road, which we needed to, and now we have to pull off some heroics. Win a game at home first, and then see if you can get another one on the road. But salute to the chat, guys. Stay positive. Let's take this game at a time, and we'll be here post-game live on Wednesday for Game 5 back at Madison Square Garden. We forced the Game 5 by winning Game 3, and we have to make some good adjustments and go from there. Peace out.